that point our x1 and y1. Okay, so since they gave us a slope and they gave us a point, where we use our point slope form. Okay, so that means we have our y, so y minus y1, equals m times x minus x1. Okay. So now we just plug everything in. So y minus -10 equals the slope times x minus -7. From there, we can kind of simplify it a little bit. Minus -10 just becomes y plus 10 is equal to 5. X minus -7 is just x plus 7. Okay. So now once we have that, we just simplify. So this one, all we did was plug in. And this one, we simplify. Move that up a little bit. Okay, so if we go ahead and distribute that 5, we have y plus 10 equals 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 7 gives us 35. And then from there, we go ahead and solve for y. So if we subtract 10 from both sides, you have y equals 5x plus 35 minus 10 is 25. Okay, so we're halfway there because we have our slope-intercept. All right, so now we just have to get our standard form. So we know if y is equal to 5x plus 25, if we subtract 5x from both sides, you have negative 5x plus y equals 25. Okay. Now, just a warning, sometimes this program can be kind of picky, and they don't want that x coefficient to be negative. So you'd want to, if it doesn't take this one, and I've had situations where they would mark this as not being correct. I don't know why, but I'm just giving you kind of a heads up. If you multiply everything or divide by -1, negative and negative is positive, so it could be 5x minus y equals negative 25. Okay. So there are times when you may, or they may have like a multiple choice problem where this one won't show up as one of the answers. So sometimes you will have to convert it just by multiplying or dividing everything by -1. All right. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, and this is your standard form. Yes. Oh, because sometimes if you have that first coefficient negative, they'll identify that as not being completely simplified. So they'll want it to just have that x term positive. All right. Okay. Any other questions on this one? All right. So we've had two examples where they give you the slope and at least 1 point. Oh, one's still writing. Looks like everyone's done writing. Okay, so what if they want you to find an equation and you only have 2 points? Okay. In other words, they didn't give you a slope. Okay. Now remember, you can actually find the slope if you have 2 points. So if they give you 2 points, all you have to do is first find your slope and then plug one of those points in for your x1, y1. Okay. So let's say, for example, find an equation through the points say 2, 5 and negative 3, 4. And we want to write that equation in standard form. Well, I'll say y-intercept and standard form. Oh, that's slope-intercept in standard form. And slope-intercept and standard form. All right. So with this one, okay, first thing you do, you look at what they gave you. So they gave you 2 points. So they gave you 2, 5 and negative 3, 4. And negative 3, 4. Okay. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to use those 2 points to find your slope. Use the 2 points to find your slope. Okay, so you have your 2, 5 and your negative 3, 4. Remember, to find your slope, you just make one of them your x1, y1, and the other one your x2, y2. So you can make this your x1 and that your y1. And make that look more like a 1. And this one you can make your x2, and this one your y2. Okay, so you have your first x and your first y, and your second x and your second y. And once you have that, you just go ahead and plug it into your formula. So we know that slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we just go ahead and plug everything in, our y2 minus y1 is 4 minus 5. And our x2 minus x1 is negative 3 minus 2. Okay, so 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. So negative divided by negative is positive. So we end up with a slope that's equal to 1 over 5. Okay, so we're halfway there. Okay, so after you find your slope, the next thing you want to do is just use either one of those points. I usually stick with the x1, y1 I already have, but if you wanted to, you could use the other one and it would still be right. Okay, let me move this up a little bit. Okay, so use either point. As your x1, y1. And plug into point slope formula. Okay, so if we stick with the same x1, y1, you know our y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, and now we just go ahead and start plugging stuff in. So y minus y1, so it's 5, equals your slope, so you have 1/5, times x minus your x1 is 2. Okay, so we go ahead and simplify it. Move that up some. So you have y minus 5 equals 1/5 times x is 1 over 5x. 1/5 times negative 2 is negative 2/5.
Can you show how you did that? Or did you just know?
Negative 2.
The 1/5.
1/5 times negative 2. Oh, yep, with that one, let's see. You have 1/5 times negative 2 is just the same as saying 1/5 times negative 2 over 1.
Okay.
So if you converted that, then you just have negative and positive is just going to be negative. 1 times 2 is 2, and 5 times 1 is 5. Right. Or a lot of times, if you multiply a fraction times a whole number, you can just take that whole number and put it up top.
Okay.
All right.
Also, could you just say that the ones crossed out and just do it like that?
Which?
What you did.
Oh, you mean the ones?
Yeah.
Well, if you, yeah, the only thing about that is you cancel out the ones, they just kind of leave ones there. So,
Oh.
yeah. Right idea, but it kind of puts you right back where you started. Okay. Any other questions on that so far? All right. Okay. So now here, we simplify by adding 5 to both sides. Okay, those two cancel out. And right next to it, now we have negative 2 over 5 plus 5. Or 5 minus 2 over 5. Okay, so you have 5 minus 2 over 5. Or you can make that 5 over 1 minus 2 over 5. So you know you can't add or subtract until you have the same denominator. So we want to change that denominator to match this one. So we multiply it by 5 over 5. Okay, so that gives us 5 times 5 is 25, or 5 times 1 is 5, minus 2 over 5. So we know that's going to be 23 over 5, because we're just going to subtract our numerators. Uh-oh. Okay, so that means that y It's going to equal 1 over 5x plus 23 over 5. Okay, so that would be your slope-intercept. Okay. Now, if we were looking for our standard form, actually, I'll put that on the next sheet because I don't want to try and cram everything on this one. Leave that up for a few seconds. Let me continue. All right, I'll continue. Oh, let me see. Y equals 1/5 x. All right. Anyone still writing this one? All right. Okay, so we left off at y equals 1 over 5x plus 23 over 5. So if we subtract 1 over 5x from both sides, these two cancel out. So we're left with negative 1 over 5x plus y equals 23 over 5. Okay, and I picked this one purposely because just like before, we had that negative next to the x, and sometimes they'll take it and sometimes they won't. With this one, it's the same thing with fractions. Sometimes they'll take them, sometimes they won't. So you want to get rid of the fractions. So you want to multiply whatever the denominator is here. That's what you want to multiply by. Plus, you want to get rid of that negative. So you want to multiply each term by negative 5. Oh, clean that up a little bit. Okay, so if we multiply each term by negative 5, you have negative 5 times negative 1 over 5 plus negative 5 times y equals negative 5 times 23 over 5.
Now, when you talk about like not accepting, you talk about like the homework that's online, they don't accept it?
There are some cases where, in most cases, they won't accept if you have a fraction for this first term or if you have a negative. So I know in WebAssign that they had, not last semester before, it was really picky about that one. So this is one of those just in case you run across this type of problem. Well, on the test, if you did have one like this, it would be multiple choice, so it's no telling which form it would be in. So at least you want to know how to convert it from one to the other. All right, so if you have the two 5s cancel each other out, negative times negative is positive. Oh, forgot my x. So you have x minus 5y equals the two 5s cancel each other out. So you have negative 23.
Wouldn't it be a negative x? Or are you just going to get rid of the negative?
Oh,
Those 5s cross out.
yeah, because you have a negative 5, the two negatives became positive.
Oh.
All right. Any other questions on this one?
So when you're multiplying fractions, you don't have to have the same denominator?
Oh no, the only thing you want to do, you just want to multiply right across by whatever the denominator is by the x.
That's why adding and dividing fractions is, or adding and multiplying is so much, I'm sorry, multiplying and dividing is so much easier than adding and subtracting. because
Yep, you
don't
don't-
get the count.
Yep, you don't even have to get that one. Excuse me. right.
That's why they should teach you about multiply fractions first before they teach you about add them, because it makes more sense when you see that.
All right, so do one more example and then you're all done. Anyone still writing?
Wait.
Oh.
Oh, wait. Never mind.
All right. So find an equation. For the line through. Let's say 4, -1, and -1, -4. In slope-intercept form. Okay, so just like before, you're given 2 points, which is 4, -1, and -1, -4.